Boosie is in hot water with the feds. Him and J. Prince Jr. Mob ties.
We left out the concert. We under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man.
Boosie is currently under federal investigation for allegedly setting up Duke the Jeweler and playing a role in getting him killed after luring him into a rigged dice game connected to J. Prince Jr. in Houston. But before we get into all that, let me walk you through exactly how this entire setup played out, because once you hear it, it's gonna blow your mind. And yo, before we dive into this wild story, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because this content is about to get crazy.
No capítulo.
What we're talking about here is real street politics that most people have no idea even exists. This isn't just hip-hop drama. This is organized crime moving under the cover of hip-hop culture. So first, let's talk about who Duke the Jeweler really was, because he was far from just some random jeweler from Chicago. Duke was one of the most respected jewelers in the Midwest period. He built his name from the ground up, doing business with everyone from local artists to major league athletes. His reputation was solid. At some point, Duke gets a call from Boosie about creating a custom piece. Now, Duke had worked with rappers before, but Boosie was different. We're talking about a Louisiana legend with serious street credibility. When someone like that calls you for business, that's the kind of opportunity that can elevate your entire brand. But here's where things start to feel off. Boosie insisted that Duke come to Houston, instead of handling the deal in Chicago or Louisiana. He told Duke there was a big Labor Day weekend event happening, and made it sound like multiple celebrities would be there looking for custom jewelry. Boosie painted this picture of Duke networking, locking in new clients, and landing multiple big orders. And the craziest part? Duke was genuinely excited. He even posted on social media about heading to Houston and the potential business opportunities waiting for him. This man had no idea he was walking straight into a setup that would end his life. Now let me expose J. Prince Jr.'s operation, because this goes way deeper than people realize. This isn't some random situation. According to the streets, he's been running the same play for years, and it's so calculated it's scary. Dude turned robbing successful people into a system. Here's how the operation works. First, targets are identified, usually out-of-town rappers, athletes, or business people coming to Houston. Using industry connections, they find out who's arriving, how much money they're carrying, and what kind of jewelry they have. Then comes the approach. J. Prince Jr. doesn't move sloppy. He positions himself as a Houston street figure showing love to visitors. Social media DMs, mutual connections, friendly introductions, whatever it takes to look official. Once the target feels comfortable, the real game begins. He shows them around the city, introduces them to people in his circle, and makes them feel like they're being welcomed into something exclusive. But in reality, it's all about building trust before the setup. The plan with Duke was simple. Let him win a little at first, boost his confidence, then switch in the rigged dice and take everything. The goal was to clean him out and send him back to Chicago broke. But something went wrong. According to the streets, Duke somehow ended up rolling with the real dice instead of the fake ones. Maybe someone slipped up. Maybe the dice got mixed. Whatever happened, Duke started winning for real. And not just a little. Duke reportedly won over $645,000 that night. That's insane. He was taking money from everybody at the table, including some very dangerous people who were not used to losing. You could feel the tension building as Duke kept winning. Their own scam was backfiring, and emotions started running hot. The magnetic tables and trick dice didn't mean anything once real dice were in play.
Man,
Boosie was standing directly behind Duke the entire time, and people started noticing something strange. He kept whistling. At first, everyone thought he was just joking around, being playful. But now, looking back, people believe those whistles were actually signals. He was communicating with others in the room, likely trying to coordinate what they were going to do next. The wild part is Duke was handling everything the right way. Even while winning all that money, He wasn't disrespectful, wasn't taunting anyone, and wasn't rubbing it in. But winning their money ended up being the worst thing Duke could have done. Once Duke cleaned house at that dice game, the entire vibe shifted. You could feel it. These dudes went from friendly and welcoming to cold and calculating almost instantly. There was no way they were going to let an out-of-town jeweler walk off with over $500,000.
No capítulo.
According to witness accounts and what people in the streets are saying, there was a private meeting right after the game ended. Boosie, J. Prince Jr., and their circle came together to figure out how they were getting that money back. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment reaction. This was planned. They already knew Duke was attending Boosie's concert the next night, which gave them time to map everything out. They tracked his movements, found out where he was staying, and lined up the perfect ambush. This wasn't random violence, this was murder treated like a business move. Multiple people were reportedly watching Duke throughout the day. And when they finally approached him in that parking lot, Duke didn't go down easy. He tried to defend himself, but he was outnumbered and outgunned. The shooters showed up ready for war, while Duke was just trying to get back to his car and return to his hotel. The shooting was fast and ruthless. Duke was hit multiple times. They took the money he had won at the dice game, along with his jewelry, and vanished into the night. And this is where Boosie's Oscar-level performance begins. Almost immediately after Duke is killed, Boosie switches into full damage control mode. He posts not one, but multiple videos trying to separate himself from what happened. On camera, he talks about how hurt he is, how Duke was a good dude, and how this kind of violence isn't his style.
Some dudes tried to rob him. See some dudes that tried to rob me that walked off by himself.
Boosie also tried to push this narrative that Duke lost money at the dice game, even though everyone knows Duke won big that night. He claimed Duke wasn't upset about losing, but that doesn't even make sense. How are you mad about losing when you walked away with over $600,000? The story already starts falling apart right there, and it gets worse. Boosie's version of what happened after the concert keeps changing, and that's suspicious as hell. First, he said Duke left by himself. Then, he claimed Duke was with other people. After that, he switched the story again. When someone is telling the truth, their story stays consistent. When it keeps changing, that's a red flag. But the most disgusting part of Boosie's whole performance was how he tried to flip Duke's death into a way to make himself look like the victim. Instead of focusing on the man who lost his life, he went online talking about how the internet was blaming him, how people were being unfair, and how all of this was affecting his mental health. Bro, a man is dead, and you're worried about your image.
Yeah, y'all got us all the way up, man. We met that dude, Duke the jeweler, the night before. We was gambling. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man. We get fucking money. That ain't our stilo. As a boss, I ain't letting that go down like that, man. This dude finna make me a piece. So y'all need to kill that. That's bad low, man. Don't put us in nothing with no bad low. It's bad low, man.
The fake sympathy in those videos was so obvious that it actually made people more suspicious. Real grief doesn't look like a performance, and Boosie Badass was clearly performing for the camera. He was trying way too hard to look innocent, and honestly, that made him look guilty as hell. Things got even crazier when fans uncovered video evidence showing Boosie's nephew leaving the building just moments before Duke was shot. That alone shocked people. Internet investigators went deep, pulling security footage, social media posts, and witness statements, and built a detailed timeline that showed exactly how everything unfolded. Then another bomb dropped. Duke's Louis Vuitton bag filled with jewelry was allegedly found at Boosie's house. Let that sink in. How do you even explain that? Boosie claimed Duke asked him to hold the bag during the dice game, but after Duke was murdered, why didn't that bag go back to Duke's family? Why was it just sitting at Boosie's place like it belonged there? As people kept digging, they started connecting Duke's case to other suspicious incidents involving J. Prince Jr. and his circle. The pattern was disturbing: out-of-town artists coming to Houston, ending up in dice games, then getting robbed or killed. Duke wasn't an isolated incident. This looked like part of a larger operation. And this is WHE. Boosie really showed his true colors. Once the internet basically pieced the whole case together and exposed the evidence, Boosie's energy shifted completely. He stopped playing the grieving friend and started getting angry that people were figuring out the truth. That reaction told everyone everything they needed to know. He began posting heated videos, calling people internet detectives and keyboard warriors, clearly upset that fans were connecting the dots. But think about it, if you're truly innocent, why would you be mad at people trying to get justice for Duke? That behavior is wild. An innocent person would want a full investigation. An innocent person would appreciate people caring enough to seek the truth. But Boosie seemed more focused on protecting himself than honoring a man who lost his life. He also tried to discredit the evidence fans uncovered, brushing off phone records, fingerprints, and witness statements. But his explanations never added up. When someone has to work that hard to explain away evidence, it usually means they're hiding something. What really stood out was this: Boosie spent more time attacking people searching for justice than actually mourning Duke the jeweler. That told everyone exactly where his priorities were. His reputation came first. And then things took an even crazier turn. Even Boosie's own family started speaking out. His brother, TQ, came forward claiming he had receipts proving Duke was set up. When your own blood starts calling you out, you know the situation is serious. Boosie and TQ have had long-standing issues over money and business. According to court records, TQ allegedly took over $360,000 from Boosie's bank account and helped one of his artists sign elsewhere behind his back. But the Duke situation pushed TQ to speak up in a way he never had before. He started hinting on social media that he knew what really happened to Duke, and that Boosie wasn't nearly as innocent as he claimed. TQ even suggests he had evidence that could expose the entire setup.
You think niggas wake up and just choose Boosie to steal from? You don't think there's better people to steal from? Like, it's not fucking happening. Boosie is not a victim, dog. Like, that nigga ain't no... Boosie is a fucking villain.
Here's where this story gets absolutely wild. A lot of people believe the Duke situation may be connected to what happened to Takeoff from Migos. And when you line things up, the similarities are impossible to ignore. Both situations involved dice games in Houston. Both involved people connected to J. Prince Jr. And both ended with young, successful men losing their lives over money and jewelry. That's not coincidence, that's a pattern. Over and over, the same formula shows up. Successful artists come to Houston, get invited into these so-called exclusive dice games. Something goes left with money or respect, and somebody ends up dead. That's predatory behavior, fam straight up. And here's a scary thought. What if there are other victims we don't even know about? How many people got lured into these situations and never made it home? How many families are grieving because of setups tied to these dice games? This is something Charleston White has been warning about for years. He's consistently called out the dangerous environment created by J. Prince Jr. and his circle in Houston. According to him, the so-called check-in culture isn't about respect. It's about identifying and targeting successful people who come into the city. The Takeoff situation happened at a dice game where money and respect were on the line. Sound familiar? The Duke situation happened after a dice game where he won money from dangerous people. The parallels are undeniable. Both cases point back to the same circle: J. Prince Jr., his people, and Houston street figures who benefit from these gambling setups. It looks less like random violence and more like a system designed to trap successful outsiders. Now here's why the Duke case really matters. The federal investigation into his murder could uncover evidence that links to Takeoff's case and possibly other unsolved crimes in Houston. When the feds start pulling on one thread, entire criminal networks can unravel. As of right now, that federal investigation is still ongoing, but sources close to the case say indictments could be coming soon. The evidence against Boosie Badass and his circle is said to be overwhelming, and federal prosecutors don't move unless they're confident they can win. Boosie continues to claim innocence, but his legal team is reportedly preparing for the worst. When federal investigators are building a case, that's not something you can just talk your way out of.
No capítulo.
The streets are watching this closely because this case could expose organized crime operating inside the hip-hop industry for years. If Boosie goes down, it could encourage other victims to come forward and expose similar operations in other cities. This could change everything. Artists may start being more cautious about who they trust and where they conduct business. The Duke case has already forced people to question whether checking in is really about protection, or just a way for criminals to line up their next target. Record labels and management teams are reportedly re-evaluating security protocols and warning artists to move smarter when traveling. The days of blindly trusting so-called street legends might be coming to an end. If the feds can prove there's a coordinated network targeting successful people in hip-hop, that could lead to nationwide crackdowns. And the impact on Houston's hip-hop scene could be massive. If J. Prince Jr. and his crew fall, the entire power structure in the city could shift. And that's the full breakdown of how Boosie allegedly set up Duke the Jeweler and played a role in his death. From the rigged dice game, to the fake sympathy videos, to the federal investigation, everything points to a calculated setup from the inside. But this story is bigger than one murder. This is about a system of exploitation that's been preying on successful people in hip-hop for years. Duke was just one victim in a much larger pattern that needs to be exposed. The fact that even Boosie WN family members are speaking out shows how serious this situation really is. When your own blood won't defend you, that says everything. The investigation is still active, but all signs point to major developments coming soon. The evidence is stacking up, witnesses are cooperating, and the pattern is too clear to ignore. If you learned something new from this breakdown, make sure you like and subscribe. We're going to keep exposing what mainstream media won't touch. More deep dives are coming. Stories that show how organized crime has quietly infiltrated the music industry. Stay safe out there, and remember, not everyone smiling in your face is really your friend. Sometimes the people inviting you to the party are the same ones planning to rob you in the parking lot. Justice for Duke is coming. The internet is undefeated. And when the truth finally comes out, a lot of people who thought they were untouchable are going to be exposed.